my gosh. Hello, everybody. What's shaking? Baking? Feeling good out there, I hope. Everybody. Good. I'm going to wait for a couple people to tune in. We got 2 people. It only takes 1, but 2 is better. That's great. Boy, this is going to be wonderful. I am so excited about tonight. As many of you know, I'm obsessed with honky-tonk music, obsessed with country music, and we've got a cat that is deep into that. And he's one of the best, in my opinion. And so I'm so excited. In fact, I'm going to play something for you so you can get into this. Now, for the 3 people that I see watching, and there's probably more because I've got it going in a couple different areas, I want you to share this because, as you know, we grow together with organic love. So spread it, share it, like it, love it, comment on it, and do your part. I really appreciate it. This is Dishin with Musicians, where we talk to musicians about life. We talk to musicians about music. We talk to musicians about food. We talk to musicians about all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm going to give you a little taste of Mr. Cole Reeves right now. Check this out.
This old Budweiser beer is tasting better all the time. I'm still crazy, but you're out of my mind. They know me by my name, and I always look the same when I stumble out of here each night at closing time. You don't need to come around. I wish you'd leave town. You need to understand that we are done. I've had it with the tears, left to drink my ice cold beer. I'll take the loss so you can think you've won. Hey, I don't miss those lonely nights of you laying by my side. I'd rather be here in this bar than in your jail. I love the neon lights. I've been learning how to fight. Lord, I've acquired quite a hand for raising hell. You don't need to come around. I wish you'd leave town. You need to understand that we are done. I've had it with the tears. Just let me drink my ice cold beer, and I'll take the loss so you can think you've won. I'll take whiskey any kind, bourbon, corn, or rye. Don't mind this lady here that's come to take me home. 'Cause I
Ain't going to give it all to you. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to make you fish for it. That was incredible. That was Cole Reeves and his brother, the Reeves Brothers, in Tulsa live. That video's on the internet. My God, was that good. And there's all sorts of fun toys they were playing with. I can't wait to delve into that. Let's get into it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cole Reeves.
What's up,
Hey,
Mike?
there he is. What's shaking, man? Wow.
Man, it's good. Thank you for having me.
Yo, it's my pleasure. My pleasure, my friend. You know, this is incredible. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. In my head, I've experienced, I've kind of visualized this happening long before I actually reached out to you, because you and I met in Memphis, Tennessee at the Ameripolitan Awards in 2018.
Yeah, man, that was a great time. That was
Yeah.
a great 5 days. A
Yeah.
tiring 5 days and stressful 5 days.
Yeah,
but
no doubt
a
about it.
blast.
No doubt about that, man. It is an exhausting time, but you're just fueled by pure, like you're meeting so many people, you're networking, you're playing. I remember playing with you in a hotel lobby and just being blown away by you guys.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Yeah, man, the lobby jams are where it's at. I'm praying that they get that back going again, because that was a great time. The lobby jams, and then the hotel jams, getting the last night of the award show night. I got the privilege of sitting in a hotel room with James Hand, and it was Zevon O'Hara,
Yes,
James Hand, Ags Connolly,
Jesus,
Pat Reedy, and me, and Rachel Williams.
Oh my gosh.
From a radio station there in Knoxville.
Oh,
and
wow. Wow.
But we all got to sit in one little room and just play songs that we had written, man. And it wasn't an honor, looking
Yeah.
back at the time, I knew it was special, but not anything, obviously after the passing of James and everything. But
Right.
man, the whole trip was something that, you could only see in your dreams until you're living it. It was great.
Can I tell you a funny story about earlier, right before the award ceremony? It was the same night you're talking about.
Oh, I love it.
My wife and I showed up at Graceland. It was at the Graceland Hotel where the ceremony was. And we showed up and I was just starstruck. Everybody that I know and love was there. I mean, it was like, it's basically like the Grammys for people who don't like the Grammys, but it's all killer music. And I'm standing in line to get a drink. And this guy in this white tuxedo and huge hat just cuts right in front of me. And he's like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. And goes right to the bar and just grabs a drink. And they just hand him one. And I was kind of pissed off. I mean, I was like, wait a minute, buddy. The line is huge. Like, what are you doing? I was trying to get a drink for my wife. And turns out it was James' hand. And I didn't know it at the time. I was like, who is that dude? But because I didn't see his face. And it was the funniest thing in the world. Because my dad actually has some really great James Hand stories back in the day. They hung out. And so yeah, but anyway, it was just that whole experience is just incredible. I urge any of you, if you can, to go down and just be a part of that. It's really, really cool. And you get to see amazing people that get awarded every year. And including the Reeves brothers were nominated that year, correct?
Yeah, we won that. We won Honky-Tonk Band of the Year that year.
And you won that year, yes. And it was wow,
really an incredible honor.
Yeah,
that was great.
Man, I tell you what, Dale Watson is responsible for most of that. I mean, that's his idea, and he's got a bunch of people helping him. But he was the one that sort of started it.
Yeah,
as far as I know, and
just for people that really love the roots music and that still care about the music and everything, and really everyone there. It's great being in such an atmosphere of people that actually are there for the love of the music and keeping something alive. I guess
Oh yeah.
I guess you don't need to keep the music alive, but try to preserve it the best you can.
Well, just as I do. I mean, the kind of music that you play and the kind of music that I play a little mix of stuff. I'm in a band that plays bluegrass honky-tonk, but called the Bottle Tops. But I'm also in another band called the Riverhawks that plays a little like soul R&B stuff because I kind of grew up on that too. But so I get a little bit of rock and roll and a little bit of country. And we'll delve into that when we talk about families, because I really want to get into your father and your history in music. Let's start there. I really want to just jump right into that because it's I don't want to keep you too long. I know your parents just moved back to your town that you're in right now, and tell the people where you're at.
I'm in a little town called Hiwassee, Arkansas, and this is actually where I was born and raised, and all of my roots run back to Arkansas. We lived in a town called Pahrump, Nevada for kind of in between, I guess, of my growing up, from the time I was probably 4 until I was 11 or 12, we lived there, and then moved back to Arkansas in the same town that I was born in. But wow. It's a great place, man. I love Arkansas. Arkansas is always going to be home to me.
Cool. Well, earlier tonight we were texting back and forth, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm in the car. My parents just moved back today." So literally, was it like just today they moved back, or maybe recently?
Well, they're just moving. They stayed with my aunt for a few days when they first got here, but they're kind of moving to their own place to stay for a little while until they get until they either build a place or find a house. Right now, real estate's crazy out here.
Oh, I bet
the market's wild, and even finding a place is pretty crazy. So
yeah.
So they're doing that. So I was helping my mom and helping her get everything set up and helping my dad and stuff. But yeah,
unbelievable. I love that feeling because I moved back to Nebraska to be near my parents as well, and I lived in Chicago for 10 years, and was kind of working at the Old Town School of Folk Music, which is a really beautiful place in Chicago. And they, it's one of the central hub for bluegrass music and honky-tonk music in the city. Sure. And there's a few hot spots in the city, but not a lot. So I really missed it. And when I moved back to Nebraska, it felt good to be back here. So I know that feeling to be close to your parents. That's really cool, man. Good for you.
There's no better feeling than being around your dad and mom,
Oh yeah, I hear that.
It's been it's been great. I was blessed for them to be able to come back. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great. Speaking of your dad, the backstory on him is just incredible. I mean, just from the very little bits I've read about and heard about. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't even know where to start, and that's a loaded question. But what are your first memories of your father, I'd say?
Oh, I mean, my first memories would be, actually, you know, we talk a lot about Pahrump because that was kind of where things really did start for us. But my first memories would probably be playing at the church. My dad would go up to a little church in Bella Vista, Arkansas, when I was 2 or 3, and he would take me with him, and then he would go to a little senior citizen center and just sing for the elderly people when we were kids. And I would always go with him and my grandma, and we would go over there and he would sing to some people. I don't even really know how he met them, but my dad was real good at meeting people. And
That's awesome.
So he would do stuff like that. And out here, he didn't play when I was a baby out here. I mean, he would do some shows. He was put on a couple shows with a guy named Hank Thompson, if you're familiar with him.
Oh, wow. Yes.
He was Hank was one of my dad's best friends. And
oh my gosh.
So I got the honor too of, the privilege of growing up around Hank and seeing Hank as a baby, 2 or 3 years old. I've got pictures, sitting on Hank's lap at a little bar.
Get out of here. That's incredible.
But no, we did that. And then we moved to Nevada because my dad was tired and he wanted to play more often. So he went back to playing 5 nights a week in Nevada and got a sit down gig.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't want to travel. He just wanted, to have a sit down job that he could do every night. But I think he missed the crowd interaction. My dad's a real people person, and just, he always loved, I think that was probably more so than the love of the music was the love of all the people.
Sure.
And, so which he instilled in us because, we grew up seeing him every night shaking. He would have, the band would do the first hour, and then he would shake everybody's hand and get to know everybody if there's any new people out there. And then the band would call him up and he would do the last 3 hours.
Oh my gosh. Wow. There's a lesson.
So yeah,
that's a lesson for you right there, man. On how to be in a band the right way. Right.
Man, it's something that is never going to go. Treating people good and loving everybody's never going to go out of style. I think that I tell people all the time, to me, the best entertainer in the world out there right now is Del Watson. And that's because, he takes time with the people and he interacts with them from the stage.
Yep.
My dad used to tell me when I was, from the time I can remember, he would always say, Cole, a person's favorite word in their vocabulary is their name. So he said, when they walk through the front door of the bar, if you're on stage and you know them, say, "Hey, John, thanks for coming out tonight." And he said, they love hearing their name. It makes them feel special. And he said, always keep that in your mind,
That's incredible.
Make people feel as special as you can. And he was really great at that.
Wow. That is a golden lesson for any young artist or musician listening out there, or anybody listening out there, I'd say. That's a really cool lesson, man. That's great. So he played, I take it he was a front man, he was a singer, and he was a player.
He was not a musician at all. He wouldn't even pick a guitar up on stage. But he was a great front man. He was an entertainer. He was
a front man. Okay. Nice, man. That's incredible. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, everybody needs a good front man. That's the key. So
he made his way for a lot of years doing it.
Wow. And I told you earlier that you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. My uncle toured with Johnny Cash in 1958. It was the very first time the Grand Ole Opry went on the road as a touring traveling company. Yeah. And they actually talk about it in the movie Walk the Line when they're in the car and they're like, "Where are we going? We're going to meet up with George Jones." And that was the same.
There were Jerry Lee Lewis in the car.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was the tour that they were going to, that they went through Omaha, Nebraska. And my uncle got the courage to ask Johnny Cash backstage before the show if he could sing one song. And talk about good people, right? Johnny said, "Well, sure. Does my band know the song?" And sure enough, the band knew the song, but he didn't sing just one song. He ended up singing 5 songs. He had 4 standing ovations. And after the show, they took him to June Carter and Johnny went to a steak dinner and a bottle of wine together with my uncle. And they invited him on the road. So they took him on the road after that. Started his whole career.
Now, did you get to know your uncle pretty well?
My uncle's my biggest influence, my father and my uncle are my two biggest influences musically. And so 58 was my uncle playing country. 68, my dad was on American Bandstand with a one-hit wonder type song, doing a bubblegum psychedelic hit. It was a crazy experience. But they were out of Norfolk, Nebraska. And so they met a guy named Dickie Lee. I don't know if you know who Dickie Lee is, but he wrote a song called Patches, and he's an old country singer. Yeah. And Dickie kind of discovered my dad's band and brought them to Sam Phillips, who recorded them. So Sam Phillips recorded their band, The Smoke Ring, but it was actually his two kids at the time. It was like their little pet project. It was Jerry Phillips, who was actually at the award ceremony that night. Did you get to meet him?
So this was already at Sam Phillips recording studio.
It was
at Sun.
It wasn't at Sun. It was down the street.
Yeah.
Yep. Sam Phillips studio. Yeah. Yep. The Sounds of Memphis is what it was called.
Wow.
Yeah. And that studio at the time was brand new, and now it's still. You walk in there and it looks the same. I mean, it's all mid-century, modern.
Man,
it's crazy.
It really does. It is cool. I stopped in with a good friend of mine, Kevin, leaving town.
Oh, killer.
And Jerry just happened to be. I said, man, let's just at least go down and see if we can get a tour, because Kevin's really into that stuff, and
yeah,
I'm kind of. I'll break the door down trying to see stuff,
Yeah.
So it works out good because he really wants to see it, and I'm willing to break the door down to do it. And we showed up, and Jerry happened to be there. I said, man, we just wanted to just come in, even if it was just to walk in the lobby. And Jerry said, man, give me 2 minutes and I'll give you a full tour. And Jerry gave us the whole tour and took us everywhere. I got to play an old Epiphone that Scotty Moore had given to Jerry Phillips.
Oh my God. Wow.
And it was really cool.
That is so cool, man. Wow. And that experience, we actually the night after, let's see, it would have been it would have been the night before the awards ceremony in 2018. My wife and I went to the Sun Studio tour to see the Sun Studios. I'd never been there. And so we walked in and did the tour, and we were the very last tour of the night. And this guy pulled us aside as if it was some like cheesy drug deal. He's like, hey, you guys look kind of cool. What are you doing later? And we were like, what do you mean? And he's like, you want to come back here and maybe record a song? And I was like, dude, what? Really? Here? It's like a museum now. What? I didn't even know they did that, but apparently they do it. They still do it. And so we came back 10:30 that night and recorded for like 2 hours. It was incredible.
You're kidding me.
No, my wife and I laid down like 6 songs. It was really super fun. Yeah. So
wow, I mean that is a memory for life there.
Oh my God, in the same, like where they all stood on the same tile, and they say that it's a different tile, but the one guy giving us the tour, he's like, no, I think they painted over it and then stripped the paint. I think this is the original tile. So it was like, that's where they all stood. Man, the magic, that whole area is crazy. They say like it's weird because it's on a fault line. So a lot of like mysterious stuff happens. Right. So like
really
arguably the invention of rock and roll and, the Million Man March, the whole, just crazy stuff going on. I mean, not Million Man March, excuse me, Martin Luther King, all that kind of stuff, the assassination, all this kind of weird stuff, whether good or bad, it happens in this area. And it's like a very cosmic thing. So yeah, it's super strange. But anyway, I'm talking.
There's definitely something in the water down there in Memphis because there's a whole lot of soul in all those guys that picked back then. And
yeah.
I'm super into a guy named Reggie Young. I don't know if you're familiar with Reggie.
I don't know Reggie. But, that's interesting.
Reggie was a part of the Memphis Sound. I mean, the Memphis Boys, and But yeah, he worked a bunch with Chips Moment on he's the guy playing, the Suspicious Mind.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And all that.
He was in Elvis's band. Oh,
huh?
Was he in Elvis's band?
No. Actually, and I can't remember what year. I want to say it was 68. Don't hold me to that because I could be totally off, but I believe it was 68. Elvis went to Chips Moment to record, and Memphis Boys it was Reggie Young, Bobby Wood on piano.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember the drummer's name or the bass player's name, but anyway, Ronnie Millsap is the guy playing piano on that stuff too.
Oh,
and before he made it.
Wow.
And he got down there, and I guess Colonel Parker came in and pretty much just, back in those days, I mean, well, for Elvis's whole career, if you didn't give Elvis half of the rights to the song or writer's credit or whatever it was, part of the money, you weren't going to get an Elvis cut.
Oh,
and
sure.
It's the reason that Elvis didn't cut "I Will Always Love You" by Dolly Parton, is because they wanted it and Dolly told them no. But pretty much Colonel came in and said, unless he ain't cutting Suspicious Minds or any of this, and Chips just said, all right, well then, get him out of my studio. I got hits to cut. I don't care if it's Elvis or not. I cut hits here. I don't cut trash. And he got Elvis aside and told Elvis, this is the reason you're not having hits pretty much, is because all your music sucks because nobody wants to give up a good song.
Right.
And that was a record that had In the Ghetto, Don't Cry Daddy.
That was 68.
Kentucky Rain, Suspicious Minds.
Yeah. Yep. That was 68.
Yeah. All of the really stuff that, to me at that time, made Elvis who Elvis was for that era of Elvis.
Totally. And it's funny, the reason I know it's 68 is because when my father was in the studio with the Phillips boys, Elvis came in and invited everybody back. He'd love to invite full large R&B bands with horn sections back to Graceland, because apparently he had an obsession with playing tackle football with big bands. So he would invite them back, get them super drunk, and then say, "Hey, well, boys, come on, we're going to play some tackle football now."
Man.
Yeah. So he invited the Smoke Ring back to play tackle football at Graceland, but he had walked through the halls in 1968 when they were there recording, and he was doing In the Ghetto down the way, I guess. So
now did they go and play football?
So it's a funny story. The label Buddha Records invited them to a party, and apparently the way my dad told it is that there was going to be a ton of girls there and a ton of beer there. So they got there and there was a ton of beer there, but there was no girls. So they got really drunk and said, "This is one of the biggest mistakes of our lives that we didn't go back to Graceland and hang out with Elvis." So
man,
I know. So they did not.
Man, my dad met Elvis in, I want to say 55, 56, whatever year he had That's All Right Mama out was the only thing he had out. And I think the B-side was Blue Moon of Kentucky.
Oh my God.
And my dad was dating a girl that had dated Elvis. And
wow.
And she was a sister of Jim Ed Brown's guitar player and the Browns guitar player. So she was trying to get my dad to go. She said, "Man, you have to go see Elvis." And my dad hated Elvis because she had gone on a couple dates with Elvis,
Oh,
and
wow.
before Elvis had even made it big, they were all kids. My dad was in high school, and I think Elvis was 2 years older than my dad. And so my dad would have been 17. Elvis would have been 19 or 20, whatever it was.
Wow.
It was at the Robinson Auditorium there in Little Rock. And my dad said, I ain't going to see Elvis Presley. I don't like him. And she goes, "But you'd love him if you met him." And my dad said, "Well, I don't need to meet Elvis. I can't even understand a word he's saying when he sings anyway. He's just," and she said, "Well, your favorite singer is going to be on the show. He's the headliner." And my dad said, "Oh yeah." And it was Webb Pierce headlined the show.
Oh, wow.
And it was Jim Ed Brown and Maxine and Bonnie Brown. And I want to say Wanda Jackson was on the show. Don't quote me on that.
Probably.
But Elvis and Webb Pierce closed the show out.
Wow.
And anyway, my dad said, "Well, the only way I'm going is if you get me a free ticket." And the tickets were $2 a piece. And so he got down there and he said, we went backstage, and he said the second I walked in Elvis's dressing room, he said, "Man, don't I know you from somewhere?" And my dad said, "Man, I don't know." And he goes, "I think I watched you box at the Ellis Auditorium in Memphis last year at the Golden Gloves." And my dad said, "Yeah, that was me." He said, "I was down there boxing." And
Elvis remembered
my dad he'd remembered from watching my dad fight.
Oh,
and, because it was like a 3-day tournament, and my dad was down there, and he had won the Golden Gloves that year for Arkansas.
Wow.
And my dad said, "Boy," he said, "we got to talking." And he said, "Elvis was yes, sir, and no, sir to me, the whole time, just the most polite guy you'd ever meet." And my dad said, "Boy, Elvis, I got to tell you, man, I just love your clothes that you wear." Because my dad said he had, these nice turtleneck sweaters and sports coats. And
I
said, I love your clothes, Elvis." And he said, Elvis had told him, he said, I'll tell you what, he said, if you meet me at the viaduct tomorrow that goes over the river, he said, if you meet me there tomorrow at 8:00 in the morning, he said, if you'll go out on the road with me, he said, I'm going tomorrow night to the Louisiana hayride. And if you'll go with me on this tour and teach me how to box, he said, you can wear all of my clothes that I got. And he said, you can just run with me. And my dad said, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, he said, I got to go home and talk to my dad, but I think I can go.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. He wanted to learn how to box. I guess he was into martial arts and stuff.
Man, my dad said at that time he loved boxing. And,
wow, crazy.
And he said, my dad went home that night and asked my grandpa, he said, you know, Dad, will you please let me go on the road with Elvis? And, you know, this guy's great. And if he lets me, you know, if I can teach him how to box, he's going to let me wear all his clothes. And he said, he'll feed me and let me go on the road with him. And he
I bet your granddad thought he was nuts.
Oh, my grandpa said, Jackie, that boy's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. And in the morning, you're going to be in school. And my dad said, you know, he never went down to meet Elvis. And he said,
oh my God,
my grandpa died that very next year. So he never got to see Elvis really explode into what he was. You know?
Oh, and, my God, what a story.
Yeah. And my dad said he met him one more time. And he said, he had told my Uncle Chuck, we got to pull in here because he said, I know Elvis. And he said, my Uncle Chuck said, Jack, you don't know Elvis than anything. And the gates to Graceland were open. And my dad said, if Elvis is here, he'll know who I am. He offered to take me on the road. My dad said, we pulled in. He said, Elvis was out back washing a car. And he said, hey, Elvis, Jackie Reeves. And he said, Elvis goes, man, who is that? And he said, my Uncle Chuck started dying laughing. He said, Jack, I told you that you don't know Elvis. And my dad goes, no, if you'll give me a minute, Chuck, you know, let me talk to him. And he goes, Uncle Chuck kept laughing. And he goes, Elvis just goes, man, I've just met so many people. He said, I'm sorry, you know, I don't recognize you. And my dad said, hey, I'm sorry for bothering you. And he said, we rolled out. And he said, I was embarrassed because he took his brother over there to impress him, you know.
Sure. Well, and by that point, he was probably doing some pill popping and probably didn't know even himself.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think that there might have been a little bit of that going on too, probably.
I bet so, man. Wow. That's incredible history, though. Incredible. That's so funny. So he was bartering his clothing for boxing lessons. That's
for boxing lessons. Man.
That's awesome.
I guess you'd have been 19. I guess my dad would have been 17 in 1955.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, yeah, that's right around when Elvis broke, man. Jeez, that's right when he stepped up to the mic and did, you know, That's All Right, Mama. Man almighty. Yeah. I was actually I got to play Scotty Moore's guitar that night, which was crazy. And so it was just like this whole magical moment, man, that you just like, you know, like you said, if you can knock down the door and go in, you're going to do it. And so I was taking it. It's one of those magic moments for me, man. I tell you what. So anyway, I been talking a lot about your music. Do you want to play us a song?
Man, I can do that.
I mean, you're sitting there with a guitar. And it's
I'm always geared to play.
It's burning a hole through your soul there, man. You better play something.
It's a crutch, Mike. I just like to have it so I can fiddle with it while we talk.
Well, that's cool, man. And I got to mention, for those of you that don't know Cole, he very regularly does these live streams on his Facebook page. And I really, really urge you to tune in. And he's kind of a human jukebox, really. I mean, I've thrown out songs that I didn't think that you'd ever know. You know, some Oak Ridge Boys stuff or whatever, you know, and you totally nailed it. So yeah, it's one of those really cool things, man. It's like, it's really awesome to see somebody digging deep into the classic catalog as deep as you do. You know,
oh man, that's my stuff, you know, that's all I ever knew.
Yes.
That's all I ever knew my whole life, you know, growing up, we were at the bar every night with our dad when he started back in Nevada playing 5 nights a week. So I just sat there at the side of the stage and just listened to all that stuff and learned as much as I could.
Man, I bet you got some good memories of watching your old man play. That's fantastic. Wonderful.
Oh,
well, I hope he's tuning in tonight. It sounds like he might be watching. So why don't we do a song for Dad? You want to play a tune?
Yeah, man, I'll play a tune. I'll do the song that I just I wrote a little while back, and we're actually working on an EP right now.
Okay.
And working on releasing some new music that.
Oh, cool.
We actually we're really fortunate. We got a guy named Steve Shady that's working on it. Him and Kevin Skirla from Wolf Island Recording Company. But Kevin produced it and engineered it, and then Steve Shady, who is Willie Nelson's recording engineer, and he just produced this new record on Willie, and produced Hillary Duff, the Lost Lonely Boys, a bunch of stuff.
Oh wow.
He did us so good. We us being broke musicians, but he took care of us, and we just became great friends in the past. And he's just an amazing person, and it was a privilege having him do it. But anyway, this is a song that we're doing just to kind of throw that out there so you guys can get an idea of some of the material.
Well, hey man, I'm going to give you the helm. You take it. I'll put you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
The lights are shining bright tonight on Highway 10. I come this way from Texas every now and then. The sky's lit up to make a perfect view. The stars remind me how much I've been missing you. Your red bandana's hanging from my rear view mirror. It sparks a flame but don't look the same as it did tied in your hair. A guy in a band ain't got a chance to stand with a girl like you. You need more than just a man who's only driving through. Phoenix, she's the reason I keep coming back. If this old truck breaks down in a faraway town, there's some railroad tracks that'll point me straight across that Arizona line. One more town away from seeing you tonight. It's an all-night dive coming in from El Paso. I heard the forecast calls for rain just up the road. But I'd drive through hell in the middle of a hurricane if I could see your smile one more time and hear you say my name. Phoenix, she's the reason I keep coming back. If this old truck breaks down in a faraway town, there's some railroad tracks that'll point me straight across that Arizona line. One more town away from seeing you tonight. Phoenix, she's the reason I keep coming back. If this old truck breaks down in a faraway town, there's some railroad tracks that'll point me straight across that Arizona line. One more town away from seeing you tonight. Phoenix, she's the reason I keep coming.
Wow, man, that was incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Is that one of your tunes on the new release?
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that's great.
Mike, I got some kind of echo just came back on me somehow.
Okay, hey, let me see what's going on. We'll try that. Is that better? Yeah, that's probably perfect. That was on my end. I was trying to tweak your sound, but unfortunately I couldn't do it, but that's okay. It sounded good enough. I got the point across, and I hope everybody heard that. Susan Reeves says, great song, Cole.
Thank you, Mom.
Oh, that's Mama. Hey, Mama. What's up? What's up, Mama? That's so great. Welcome to the show, Mama. Susan Reeves in the house. Boy,
that's right.
So there's 2 boys at least. Is there any more than 2 boys?
There's 8 of us all together.
Get out of town! Wow.
There's 8 all together. I got my dad. My dad was also pretty wild before my mom. So
Okay.
but it was a fortunate deal on both ends because my other siblings got me and Matt and we got them. So
There you go.
and then my mom had one kid, Eric, our older brother.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Wow.
So we got him, and he stuck with us too. So
there you go. That's nice. That's nice when they can accept you. That's good. That's very good.
We're all full blooded, man. We all love each other.
Oh, that's amazing, man. What a cool family, and to hear the dad stories, it's just incredible, And so, how long did he play? Did he gig in Nevada? You said.
Off and on, starting in about 1992. Well, he gigged in Nevada throughout the 70s too. But that was in Vegas at a. He would go there and play the Golden Nugget, and then he guest starred at a place called the Silver Dollar.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then Carson City at the Carson City Golden Nugget. He did. I think I got a newspaper clipping that said he played 28 weeks out of 52 there. So
Good
1
Lord.
year. Yeah, he'd go up there quite a bit and play the casino up there. Yeah.
That's a lot of gigging, man. That's we probably play around 60 to 70 shows a year, but that's a lot of gigging.
Man, my dad, he played 6 to 7, always 6 nights a week throughout the entire 60s and 70s.
Wow.
And a lot of the 80s, but usually, all of his musicians said, man, on the off night, he'd always pick up a gig somewhere and play Sunday or Monday, whatever was their off night.
Of course, when you're doing it like that, you just love it. That's what you know how to do, and you love it, right?
Yeah, man, that's all he ever did, and he did. He loved it.
Yeah. So, can I ask when did you ever get to play with your old man? Did you play with him?
Oh, yeah, I did hundreds of shows with my dad. My brother and I both did.
Good.
I played bass for my dad.
Really?
I guess when I was about 12 or 13, I got pulled out of school and went on, traveling, playing bass with him whenever he would play. And just, that was pretty much when I started dedicating all my time to music.
Okay.
And Matt did the same thing.
Okay.
He started a little bit before me, but he started playing guitar for my dad when he was 13 or 14. And then we're 5 years apart. He's 5 years older than me. So I started, when I was 12 or 13 playing bass for my dad.
Okay. Did you guys always know that you were going to be in the music business, or did you kind of just discover it at one point, like you said?
Man, it's funny because there's kids that have, talked to me that I went to first grade with, that they always laugh because they go, man, we remember when school, it was always a joke. When you were a kid, they'd ask you what you were going to do when you grew up. And you'd always tell them you were going to be a singer. And then you're like the only person that actually did what they told the teacher in first grade that you said you were going to do. But that's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah, man, you and I are so similar. I was the same way. I was singing country music at 4 years old on the back of a trailer, going through Nebraska, hanging out with Miss Nebraska, and doing all kinds of. I was almost on the Johnny Carson show. Yeah,
and got started from your dad.
Started from my dad. Yeah. I watched his band, The Dirt. They were called the Dirtland Band. They were a country band. And I was telling you earlier, this is a funny, because my dad was rock and roll until about maybe 71, 72, and then went completely country.
Man, what made him switch over?
Well, he married my mother, and her brothers were country singers. So he thought, hey, if I'm going to gig, it might as well be with these guys.
Yeah.
Because the smoke ring, he joined the military for a few years, a couple of years, 3 years, and then when he came back, he started playing country music with the brother-in-laws, basically.
Man.
Yeah, and they were called the Allison Brothers, and then they played for I don't know how many years, but my dad always jokes about not knowing much about Led Zeppelin because he didn't listen to any rock and roll.
He bounced out of the rock and roll scene.
Yeah, he was listening to Rhinestone Cowboy, Campbell and the Oak Ridge Boys. He actually played with the Oak Ridge Boys. They got him up on stage when they came through Nebraska, and some drunk from the crowd dared Silver to play or get up on stage, and and they were, just throwing smack, and they said, "Hey boys, you know how to play guitar?" And my dad said, "Hell yeah, I know it. I'll play that song." And they got up and did "Y'all Come Back," it's from the "Y'all Come Back" saloon, and
Oh yeah, man.
that era, that same era.
Yeah.
And so they got up and played a few songs and just totally, and I believe that was the night. And if my dad's watching, he can tune in and tell for sure. But I think that's the night that James Hand opened the show and was just ripped, like hammered drunk,
Yeah.
and didn't quite really know where he was. And so then somebody had screamed this and that and this and that. It might have been James Hand even that dared the Oak Ridge Boys to get up on stage. If my memory serves me correctly, I think that's how it went down. And then they got up on stage and they played with James's band. They played my dad on guitar, got up from the crowd and played with the Oak Ridge Boys. But yeah, so these weird little, these assimilations to your life to my life. It's really fascinating, man. Like being inspired by family and, just I always knew that I was going to be an entertainer growing up. No question.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, no question.
I think it's got to be in your blood,
Yeah, for sure.
Out of all my dad's kids, Matt and I were the only one, and they grew up around my dad doing it too every night, even more so than we did.
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably why that they didn't go that route, is because they got the younger and crazier dad, that was gone a little more often, and we had the luxury of going with him. My dad had made a deal with the bar owner when we were kids, when we moved back to Nevada. And it was a little club called the Stagestop. And we actually moved in a single wide trailer behind the bar. And my mom was a waitress at the bar.
Oh,
my dad had the house band, and my dad is super protective of his kids and,
sure.
and didn't want anybody to watch us. He figured it'd be safer for us in the bar, I guess.
That's great.
But anyway, Jan Jensen owned the bar, and he told Jan, he said, if my kids can't be there every night for my shows, he said, I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And so she let us in. She talked to the Nevada Alcohol and Beverage Control. And back then, I don't know if it's the same way. I'm assuming it is. We all sang. We were little kids, but we sang. And we moved there on my 4th birthday. And by the Nevada Alcohol Beverage Control, because Jan had told my dad, well, there's no way they'll let the kids in. They'll shut me down. And my dad said, well, they let Tanya Tucker do it. So
yes,
figure it out. And they got a note from the Alcohol and Beverage Control saying, if you can't stop anybody from making their living, whether they're 2 years old or 100 years old, if they're making their living doing it, you can't stop them. You can make sure that they can't stop within 40 foot of a gambling machine or wherever like that. But if they're walking to the stage or from the stage, that you can't stop them. So I'd walk by the gambling machine, but it wasn't long before I was by the end of the night, I would usually end up setting somebody's lap up at the bar. There was a guy named Tommy T that he was God bless his soul. He was a town drunk, but he was the sweetest guy in the world. I think he's the only person in the world Coors beer actually delivered to his home.
Oh my God.
And he had a big tour bus. That's how my dad got to know Hank Thompson so well. He was Hank Thompson's best friend. And he was also one of my dad's dearest friends. And he had a tour bus that he would take Hank around in called the Silver Bullet. And it had Coors on tap, and it had a hot tub in the back of the bus.
Oh, my gosh.
And he'd take my dad around in it. And he had Coors on tap at his house. He had a single-car garage that was full to the ceiling, I remember as a kid, with just cases of Coors.
Oh, my God. And, wow. Sponsored by Coors.
Yeah, my dad wrote a song. Here's to Tommy T, hold your Coors Light up high and drink to the music so fine. Here's to Tommy T, he's got a heart of pure gold and drinks Coors Light beer all the time.
Wow, that's it. Oh my God. Dude. He could have been the spokesman. Wow. That is phenomenal. Phenomenal. That's true, I mean, I remember singing with the Dirtland band a few times, and my grandmother would bring me in the bar. And it was just like that. They just threw me up on stage with a bigger hat than you on a 4-year-old, and they just kicked. And the funniest part about my show at that age was that I used to sing Elvira, which, if you know that song at all, it's got the big giddy up, boom, ba, boom, ba. I can't even do it now, and let alone at 4 years old. You giddy up, boom, ba, boom, ba, ma, ma. It's just like a chipmunk singing the deep parts, But yeah,
How you doing?
that was it, and it was just one of those moments. But I've got great pictures from back then of
Wow.
just these like, almost like Grecian, 30 feet tall people standing right next to me. Of course, I was like probably 2 feet tall, so it felt like they were 30 feet tall. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, good for you. That's
What a different time
you
and
got it.
place, huh?
Your story could be a movie. I mean, your
Oh,
story could literally be a movie. Growing up in the bar, living behind the bar. That's incredible stuff, man.
man, it was a great. I don't know that I'd want anybody else to live it, but
Yeah.
it was a great time for me as a kid.
Oh, I bet you had a
I
ball.
I loved it, and
Shaped you to who you are now, man, for sure.
it is. We got to grow up. My dad's third cousin was Glenn Campbell, and they grew up together in Delight, Arkansas.
Oh my gosh.
So we got to grow up, around Glenn, off and on, growing up and getting to go to. I remember the first time I got to see him, I was probably 8 years old, 8 or 9, and we got to go see Glenn. And after that, he started playing in a little town called Laughlin, Nevada, a lot. There's just a row of casinos on a river, on the Colorado River, and Glenn would come down there, at least a couple times a year and
Oh
play.
wow.
And we would drive up and we'd get to go eat dinner with Glenn, and I'd get to talk to him. It was just when he just had the onset to Alzheimer's, so he could still talk to you, and
Sure.
and it was amazing getting to see him play and getting to be around him. And
Oh man, he could still play his ass off, even though with the
oh,
Alzheimer's was bad.
he was great.
Your mama says good times.
Good times. They
And
were good times.
Amy White says, "Sounds like your next song, Cole. Growing up in a bar."
That's my across the street neighbor. Her and Jeremy live across the road from me.
Oh, I'll be darned. Hey, Amy, what's up from across the street there in Arkansas? How you doing? That's pretty cool. She says, "Growing up in a bar is your next hit."
There we go.
Cool.
I gotta have my first hit first.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think you just sang it not too long ago, man. That's
Oh,
incredible. I'm
thank
going to be
you.
sharing that like crazy, man, for sure. I hope you get some good marketing push on that. And speaking of, I've been saying you got to get back to Nebraska. So when you want to do that, you just let me know. I'm going to hook it up. So I'm telling you, a lot of people back here would just love your music, and I'm so happy that you're on the show tonight because I'm kind of exposing you to some people that I know, and
Yeah.
hopefully that's the case. I know a few people are tuning in, saying some fun comments here. So, man, this is incredible. I could talk to you all night long, I'm
Hey,
sure.
I got all night, Mike. I ain't got nothing to do.
That's incredible, buddy. When's your so what are you doing locally? Are you playing shows? Like how's the pandemic doing for you? I mean, how's that changed your life?
Well, the pandemic shut me down, and took all of our jobs away. But I didn't
Yeah.
lose any weight, so I did good. I figured out how to eat at least.
Good, man, good.
No, it was the pandemic did affect us a little bit, and we had to cancel. Man, we canceled a lot of shows due to it. But
Me too.
it's back. I mean, as good as ever for us right
Good.
now, and we're
Do you have a regular gig there, or are you
no.
you're just kind of touring around a little bit?
Yeah, right now we've been doing a lot of stuff in Nashville and going down. We've been writing with a lady named Leslie Satcher,
Okay.
who wrote Troubadour for George Strait, and
Hmm.
Politically Uncorrect for Gretchen Wilson and Merle Haggard, and
Cool.
a guy named Steve Dean, who he wrote "Oh Southern Star" for Alabama,
Oh wow.
and
Really?
and Hearts Aren't Made to Break for Lee Greenwood, and Watching You for Rodney Adkins, and Aaron Barker, who's a bunch of the George Strait writers too, and Steve wrote for George too. But we've been blessed and super fortunate. We started working with our first cousin as a gentleman named Scott Reeves, who
Okay.
was Ryan on Young and the Restless. If you guys have ever watched any soap operas.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. I grew up on that. That's incredible.
Oh, okay. Well,
I love that show.
he was Ryan on Young and the Restless, and his wife was Jennifer Horton on Days of Our Lives.
Oh my God.
And
With Cricket and Victor and all those crazy fools. I love that show. Man
right.
almighty, that show was insane, dude.
Oh man,
You could write a whole album if you watch 3 of those shows, man.
That's right. I think that's how he's done it. No, my cousin Scott wrote Toby Keith's last #1 hit.
Oh wow.
And it was a thing called Made in America.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw
Yeah,
it.
it was a super big hit for Toby Keith. Him and Toby Keith and a guy named Bobby Pinson wrote it together.
No kidding.
And through just through family events and everything, we got to meet up. We had been a long time since my grandmother's funeral that we had seen each other. And 10 years down the road, we finally got reacquainted. I guess we were never unacquainted, but you know,
Sure.
just time and everybody's living
Right.
and we got to talking and he goes, man, I want to go on the road with you guys and just film what you guys do and just put together a little documentary about your life that you can show people. And he did. He came out on the road with us and spent a week and living out of rundown hotels and sleeping in cars and everything else that we did. And
Wow.
at the end of it, he asked us if we'd want to come down and start writing, and writing with a bunch of his close friends, and
Great.
we did, and through that we lucked into a deal with I don't know if you're familiar with Justin Moore or not, but
No, I don't know that name.
Justin Moore, he's super relevant to modern country music. He's had tons of number one hits in current country, and so we're getting ready to go out on. We're gonna be the opening act for the opening day to his tour.
Dude, that's big.
Out.
That's big. Yeah,
it's super big. We're playing the Pensacola Bay Center in Pensacola, Florida, April 22nd.
Okay. Oh wow,
and,
cool.
So we're starting to get our feet wet and all of that, and
Good.
Yeah, so our cousin's been a huge help. So that's pretty much pulled us out of a lot of stuff during the pandemic, and got us coming to Nashville and just hooking up and making contacts and meeting everybody, and it's been a series of events, but it's been a blast, and getting to see all of that side of the family so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, you sometimes have to wonder, the pandemic really threw a lot of us into different pockets that we probably didn't really know that we were ever going to get into.
Oh, definitely.
Otherwise, did you feel that too?
Oh man, yeah. So many different things, I mean, even just the deal that I just talked to, was just mentioned. Right. That would have minus a pandemic, I mean, I think it gave us a lot of time to think and just adjust to the next page of life. And,
right.
Just, because I know that what we were doing, not that we weren't happy and having a great time, playing at all the clubs in Texas and stuff, but everything's time to turn a page, and we're still going to do that and still have a great time. But it's just fun to see new territory and be involved in new things. I love being involved in new things.
Yeah, man, I can tell. It's been good. For me, a lot of different reasons. I never thought I would ever host a talk show. First of all, which has always kind of been a deep-seated, I guess, wish of mine at some point. Yeah. I'm a big Johnny Carson fan, and I love. He actually grew up in Nebraska, but I never thought I'd be doing this, and I never thought I recently started a little company where I'm writing songs for custom songs for people.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd do that. So it's really kind of pulled me in a lot of strange directions that have been all but good, So
when did you start the Dishin with musicians?
This is the 10th episode of Dishin. So, but I did a few different podcasts and interviews with. So my father started the Nebraska Music Hall of Fame.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so him and I co-run that right now, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. So him and I did a bunch of inductions, like virtual inductions during the pandemic, which were really cool. And my company that I own does media and marketing and stuff. And so I was kind of ahead of the curve with the streaming thing. And so it just kind of happenstance would have it that, I was able to do these live stream inductions, which was really cool. So we got to induct a ton of really awesome bands, and the drummer from Tower of Power who lives in he's from Omaha. We inducted him, and Stevie Wonder's songwriter, he's on the list to get inducted, and a bunch of really great people. So it's some really cool people that are
super cool.
Yeah, have Nebraska ties and whatnot. So it kind of pulled me in some really cool directions, directions that I never really thought I would ever do. So it's for the better. I think everybody, like you said, they had time to think about where their lives were going, and
for sure,
like that. So, man, you got some great stuff brewing. So you're just starting to record now. The new stuff what's the latest release, or when is the next release?
Right now, I don't honestly know when we're going to get it released. We're working on new. Everything's done, and we just got it mastered. And so everything's finished, and we're actually waiting right now. We're gonna shop it around a little bit and just kind of try to get a little traction on it, and just to get some more, promotion and get it thrown out there so we can get on maybe, I don't know, some more shows, bigger shows, and getting some new merch made up right now. And but
Cool.
but I'm hoping sometime, this year it'll be released, because it's all done.
Yeah. Killer, man. The Hi from the Mankey family. Oh yeah. What's
the
up?
Minkies. I love you guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I met them down at the Ameripolitan Awards too. Yeah, that's
Hey,
crazy.
I'm telling you right now, Jan is the queen of Ameripolitan.
I tell you, she's fun. She's fun people for sure, man. This is like a 6 degrees of separation for a lot of people that we're familiar with. So,
Oh,
been,
for sure.
yeah, no doubt, man. Well, I'll tell you what, we're just coming up on an hour. Let's do so real quick. So you guys won the Ameripolitan Awards in 2018. I want to make sure that people assimilate and know who you are. So you got the Ameripolitan Awards, best honky tonk band of 2018, which is a huge honor. That's a big deal. Tell them who won it the year before.
The year before we won it, Gary P. Nunn had won it.
No kidding. No,
Yeah.
and that's been taken by some pretty incredible derailers. I think won at one point, and I want to say they. I mean, there's been some incredible people winning.
Man, the year I don't know how we won it the year we won it, man. The people that we were up against was just incredible.
Really?
Musicians. We were up against Harmonica Sam, the country side of Harmonica Sam, and the Lawrence Peter outfit.
Oh, I know Lawrence. Yeah, man, he's been on my show. Yeah, he's great.
All the people we were up against, I don't know that I could say they deserved it more than we did, but it was an honor getting it. And
cool.
And then we got to go back the next year and present it with a guy named Roy Head.
Oh, yes.
And we presented the award with Roy and gave it to 2 Tons of Steel.
Oh, killer, man. That's killer. That is awesome, man. Well, that's an incredible feat, and it got to make you feel good winning something like that, and getting recognized, So
it truly did. It was a great, and I told people when I went there, I was hoping to win, and when I left, it wouldn't have mattered at the end of the day because we met so many amazing people that trip. I mean, the Minkies are watching right now, and that was just one group of the 100, 200 groups of people that we got to meet that were just incredible people. I mean, that's why we're on here right now.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. Roy Head is an incredible story as well. I mean, he's a handful.
Man, I love, a lot of people know Roy from doing Treat Her Right, and I had come across Roy when I was a kid because one of my dear friends, Pat Price, her husband wrote a song called "Come to Me."
Okay.
Come to me if ever you get lonely. Just reach out your hand and there I'll be.
Okay.
And so he wrote that, and that was a single for Roy's country stuff. And so I had listened to that when I was, 18 or 19, and I was like, who is this Roy Head guy? I love this. And I had no idea about Treat Her Right.
Yeah.
And then I show up to the Ameripolitan Awards, and everybody's making a scene about this guy throwing his mic and, doing Treat Her Right and all these mic tricks. And I'm like, man, as far as I ever knew, Roy Head was a country guy.
Oh, yeah. No. He was a James Brown type. Yeah, he put on a show.
Oh, man.
He put on a show.
And one of the nicest guys you could ever want to meet.
Yes.
Just a great guy.
Yeah, totally.
And his son too. We got the opportunity to do a show with Sundance about, I guess, 3 years ago, after the Ameripolitan Awards, and got to talk with him and tell him about meeting his dad. And that was before Roy had passed away.
Yes. Yeah. Man, that's incredible. And I think he just passed away like a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. Yeah. That's he's popped up in the conversation with my pops too. That's some interesting 6 degrees of separation stuff going on. It's this whole interview is kind of blowing my mind, really. So it's super fun.
Oh, man.
So I got to tell, I'm going to tell you a quick story about this guitar behind me. Can you see it? Here, I'll lean this way. It's
the Buck Owens one.
It's one of the Buck Owens guitars. So check this out. You're going to get a kick out of this story. So I was looking for one of these, and my wife was actually looking for me. She was looking for one of those guitars for me for my 40th birthday, and she just couldn't find one. And so I said, okay, screw it. I'm going to call Buck's Palace in Bakersfield, California, and just ask them, if they have them. And I called them, and it was, I don't know if you know, but it's kind of like an Applebee's mixed with like a museum now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, which is kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time, but it is what it is. So, but I think it's better than the Applebee's. I'm not giving its due credit, but anyway,
They still got the new Nemo bill on the wall, so at least
yeah. So, and I've never been there, so I'm kind of judging, but just from a phone call. The gal that answered sounded like an Applebee's waitress. So anyway, she's like, I don't know anything about those guitars. Let me hand you over to Jim. And I was like, Jim. And I was like, okay, Jim. So he answers. He's like, hey, this is Jim Shaw. And I was like, Jim Shaw? There's no way. That can't be the Jim Shaw. Jim Shaw was in Buck's band.
Yeah.
And he was the keyboard player forever. And he also managed his band forever. And so sure enough, it was him. And so we get to talk, and we talk for 2 hours on the phone.
Wow.
And because it turns out my uncle had booked Buck Owens in the Midwest. And so we had some stories to share. And Jim is just a super nice guy. He's a kind of a chatty Cathy like I am. And so, why the story is so long-winded, pardon me. But so anyway, we get to talking. I go, what I really called about? I didn't call to talk to you, even though this is great. I actually called to see if you had one of those, American guitars.
Yeah.
And he goes, man, Mike, I don't know if we do. I tell you what, let me call you back. I'll see what we have downstairs in the basement, and I'll give you a call back. So he called me back, and he goes, I had a bunch of pieces, and they were all and I was like, I'll take the pieces. I'll put it together. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so he's like, no, I might have something better. Let me keep looking around. I'll give you a call tomorrow. And sure enough, so the next day he sends me an email with a couple pictures of this guitar. And he's like, this guitar has been sitting in Buck's office for, I think at the time it was like maybe 15 years after he died, and something like crazy like that. Nobody had touched anything in his office. The papers, the pens, the envelopes, nothing had been touched on Buck's desk. Like everything in his office wasn't touched, but this guitar was in a box. And I'll tell it on my podcast because I don't care. It had Lori Morgan's name written on the box. I guess when she was touring in, let's see, Lori was married to
Keith Whitley.
Keith Whitley, you're right. So they were married. They toured Europe with Buck Owens, right? And so Buck, as a treat or a sort of a, he would give these gifts to people as a gift. And he would say, here, as a little, hey, thanks for going on the road with me. It was so great. And I miss you, here's a guitar. And he'd ship it to the house, but he never shipped Lori's, but he shipped Keith's. And so Keith got his, but Lori never got hers. So this dude, Jim Shaw, gets on the phone and he tells me he's got this guitar that he would sell me. And I'm going, dude, in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh my God, there's no way it's going to be like $15,000, $20,000. I mean, this is like in his office as a gift to somebody else. And so lo and behold, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you want for it? And he's like, I don't know. How's $1,200 sound? And I was like, how fast can you ship it? Like,
Wow.
I was like, no way. So he sends me like 2 or 3 vinyl of Buck, pictures of like rare Buck albums with these 8x10s and the guitar. And it's like in mint condition. I couldn't believe it, dude. I was just like, I mean, sometimes in life things happen that you're just like, no way did that just happen. And that was absolutely I knew you of all people would get a kick out of that. Cause that, those guitars are legendary. And I grew up watching Hee Haw, and Buck always played them and he always would give them out as gifts and whatnot. Yeah. But he would even use those in the studio, for.
Oh man. Yeah. Buck, is that one of the ones made by Harmony or?
It was, so Gibson made them, but they would put, I think Harmony was the brand on it. Let me look real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
So this one's interesting. So it's got the made in the USA. and the model number, but I believe I would have to look up. The. What I was told was that Gibson made them in Chicago, I believe, and then they would ship them down to Nashville and put a different brand on them.
Wow.
This is a 1964.
Okay.
So whatever year that would have been, you may know. I don't.
Man, well, no, I was curious. I have one here at the house.
Do you?
But
does it have the original headstock and everything in one piece?
Here's the deal. So later on, Fender started making them the same way, like the old.
Yeah. Right.
Years later.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
When maybe the 2000s, I don't recall. But Fender started making them, and Buck would have whatever, these new ones laying around.
Yeah.
So at some point, somebody got their hands on a handful of them
right.
and started releasing like a couple of them at a time.
Oh.
And of these Fender, I don't even know how it came back. Fender made them, and which is weird to me because like those are the ones that I know as the one you had.
Yes.
It's like the ones that he actually played. I mean, he would play those on Hee Haw.
Yes.
And
Ryan Adams and the guy from Green Day played one on the the unplugged Green Day. They're very sought after guitars,
and they're so cool. And you can't, dude, you don't bump into those old Harmony or whatever. The ones like you got, you don't bump into them.
No, those old boxy sounding. I have a Silvertone from 1949 that sounds a lot like it, but it sounds really boxy, and it's got a really great recording sound because it's a lot more high tone and trebly, and it kind of cuts through the mix as an acoustic sound, as opposed to like a Dreadnought that's bigger and warmer and whatnot. But yeah, for incredible recording sound. I record a lot with it.
And I can't believe that you got one that was supposed to go to Laurie Morgan, dude. That's amazing.
Well, that was in his office.
And it was hanging in Buck's office. He played.
Yeah, it was just sitting there. Yeah, so it's literally like a piece of like a history. Again, it's like walking into Sun Studios and just being like, oh, there's Scotty Moore's guitar. Like, oh, okay, what do you mean I can play it? Oh, that's crazy. It's like literally walking into like the Country Music Hall of Fame, with Marty Stewart and him saying, go ahead, pick one. It's like, holy shit, really?
Oh, dude, that's incredible. You stole it.
Yeah, right. And it does feel like, and it will go into the Hall of Fame at one point. I'm going to put it into the Nebraska Music Performing Arts Hall of Fame here. So it's going to go into the Hall of Fame. That's where it will live. Yeah. But until we get a physical location, it's sitting here in my studio here. So, but it's just, I'm sure you're like me. You probably geek out over guitars and yeah.
I love guitars, and even more so than me. You'd love talking to my brother.
Well, speaking of, I saw your brother playing what looked like which Marty Stewart plays now, the B bender. Did he mimic or build one like that?
Yeah. Matt and I both got it's a double body bender.
Oh, sure. The push and pull. Yeah.
Yeah, so Clarence White, the original one, and Clarence was my dad's guitar player back in the late 60s. Before he went with the Byrds, he played some guitar for my dad and did some session work for him.
What?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'll send you a picture. I've got a really cool publicity photo.
Dude, you're blowing my mind right now. You're kidding me.
Yeah, it's really amazing because him and Gene Parsons and Clarence were both in my dad's band. And I've got a cool publicity photo of my dad sitting down in a chair in a suit. And it's Clarence, Gene Parsons, and then a guy named Gib Guilbeau and Wayne Moore, the band was called Nashville West at the time. They worked at a club called Nashville West and had a live record called Nashville West. And
wow.
But anyway, yeah, he had that guitar. Gene Parsons had made that double body bender.
His brother, Gene, yeah.
And so anyway, Matt, one of his biggest heroes is Clarence White. So
yeah.
Anyway, there was a guy named Brian Friend that was making them out of pedal steel parts, and so something to do. He takes a pedal steel changer of like a Fender 800 or 400. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
You have to ask Matt about it. But anyway, yeah, he built this, replica of Clarence White's guitar for Matt. And, it's a 58. Matt has a 58 American vintage reissue that he he did it on.
Sure.
And then Kevin Skurla builds really great benders, and so he built there's a guy named Bob Wofford, and he played for Linda Ronstadt back in the day, and he also did some session work for my dad and stuff, and he right before Clarence got the guitar that Marty Stewart has, he had a white Telecaster.
Okay.
And Bob Wofford got that guitar from Clarence. So anyways, Bob put
was that a double thickness? Was it a thicker one too, or no?
Yeah. It's a double body bender too.
Yeah.
And Bob, after Clarence put his bender in, I guess Bob built the second bender or whatever. Bob and his dad put one in his bender.
Okay.
Or his telly. So anyway, Kevin built a replica of Bob Wofford's bender, and I loved it. And I can't play a B bender, to save my life. But
sure.
Anyway, I went ahead because Kevin was wanting to build a reverse one in black because he had already done the white one. He goes, dude, it'd be really cool to build a black version with a maple neck, and then I've got the white with the rosewood.
Cool.
So I ended up having one built, and I still can't play it, and it's
tough
in the studio right now. Yeah, it's hard to play.
Yeah,
Matt picked it right up, and Kevin can play some cool stuff on it, and I just
it's killer. Yeah, I built one 2 years ago. So I hunted down all the pieces. The hardest, I have it sitting right here. The hardest part to find was the sticker.
Frankfurt sticker, yeah.
Yeah, the Frankfurt sticker. I found it online, and it literally took almost a year to get here from Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was eBay. Yeah, and I thought I wasn't going to get it. But then, funny enough, as a happenstance, I met Nudi's daughter.
Yeah, Jamie.
Yes. And so do you know her?
I met her in Ameripolitan, but I've been Facebook friends with her forever.
Okay, so that's probably where I met her. I can't remember where I met her. I think it was really late at night. It probably was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she's like, you should email me. I have some of those stickers of my dad, some of the original round stickers that they used to give, I believe, as little handouts for when people came shopping at their shop. I don't know for sure, but but the original ones lost their sticky, but she's still, and she's such a sweetheart. She actually sent me one in the mail, and it was a cute little note that, from her, and it had the address of Nudie on there and everything. It was a little stationery. It was so cool, man. So I found the round sticker that your brother's got. I think he's got something like that on his.
Yeah, Matt's got one on his.
Yeah. So we're all nerds about this stuff, right?
Yeah, man, for sure. The Frankfurt sticker. Johnny Isaac helped Matt out a lot. I don't know if you know Johnny Isaac or not, but
I don't. I have heard his name, but I've never met him.
He owns like one of every bender that's ever been made, almost, minus like one company. I can't Bay or something, but he's got a ton of benders.
Really?
And he's a big Clarence White fan as well.
Sure.
Marty Stewart fan. So he helped Matt out because he collects stuff. Like, he's always got his eyes open for the stickers and all that. So he's got a little, this is my stash, and because they're hard to come by.
They are, man. So the day we took the tour, I was telling you about at Sun Studios in Memphis. Mm-hmm. So that whole trip was very mind-boggling to me. And not only did I meet you, I met like tons of other people. So we pulled up to Sun Studios, and I'm not even kidding you, Cole. The Marty Stewart was out front with a trunk open from his black Suburban, and he was buying artwork out of another guy's car.
Wow.
And I was like, what is happening? I literally parked illegally because my wife, she's like, watch out, you're going to hit something. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's Marty Stewart. I got to get out and say hi. He literally was like waving at us as if we pulled up to like a family reunion or something. And so I parked illegally. We both hopped out of the car and we walked right up to him. And him and this artist, a famous Austin artist that was in town, he was buying artwork from him. And he's like, hey guys, how's it going? I mean, as if he knew me. And I don't know Marty Stewart, I didn't then, I do now, but he's like talking to us as if he knew me. And I was like, what is going on? And so, and I went down there for the Ameripolitan Awards, but I also went down there trying to find my dad's master tapes that are still somewhere down there. And lo and behold, Marty actually kind of knew where they were. He sort of like kind of knew people to call and knew. So it was like this strange, like, again, weird cosmic freak out that was just like, oh my God. And,
Yeah, I mean,
and he talked to us for like a half hour. He was like the sweetest guy. And I felt bad because the dude buying art that was selling the artwork just stood there as if it was like, hey, we're just hanging out, you know? And I felt bad because they were doing stuff on this on the sidewalk, and I was like, "I'm sorry to take your time, man." But he kept asking us questions about our band and what we do and where we're going, and it was just the weirdest thing. And so,
isn't it cool to meet somebody like that and then be so personable with you?
That whole day was insane because that later that night is when we got to record at Sun, and it was just like this whole mind-boggling scenario. So yeah, but he's a major sweetheart, and he plays in Omaha quite a bit. We were actually supposed to open up for him recently, and then it didn't work out. Some pandemic crap hit, and it was kind of like, okay, that didn't work out. But I hope to someday. I want to get him back here, maybe on a festival that I book or something.
Man.
But yeah, man, he's a really sweet guy, and you know, Way Out West is one of the greatest.
Dude, that's an incredible album.
The guitar work on that album is just, dude. Kenny is, oh my God.
Yeah, man, that's a great. Him and Mike Campbell producing that stuff. And
yeah.
That's a good album.
It is a really good album. It kind of makes you go, okay, I think I need to practice a little more.
Everything Marty Stewart does makes me want to practice more, man.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
How do you do it? And Kenny Vaughn, I mean,
Kenny
Vaughn is the smoothest guitar player.
Oh yeah, and
he's a super nice guy. I've got the pleasure of seeing him several times, not with Marty. I got to watch him when I was a little kid with Marty Stewart, right when he founded the Superlatives, and like,
oh cool.
I can tell you what year it would have been because it was Matt's 14th birthday party. So it would have been 2004. October 11th of 2004, I got to see him in Laughlin. So
cool.
Matt was 14. I was 10 years old.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he had just, you know, it wasn't Paul Martin on the bass at that time. It was another guy, but it was Harry Stinson drumming and Kenny Vaughn playing guitar, and man, that show blew me. He was a great entertainer too.
Sure.
Super funny and just really good with the people.
Yep.
And but man, I loved it, and I got to meet him after the show, and he took Matt backstage and let Matt play Clarence White's guitar.
Oh.
My dad brought a little 8x10 and told him the story about Clarence playing guitar, and said, you probably get a bunch of people telling you stories, but I just want to show you this so I'm not lying. And it's my kid's birthday, and he's a big Clarence White fan. So he took Matt backstage and let Matt play all of his guitars. And Connie Smith was there. It was real cool.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, he was a super great guy.
Yeah, he's a big historian like me and like you. He really cares a lot about the history and preserving the history of classic country music, so.
Man, it's amazing, and I'm really looking forward, not to cut you off, but I'm really looking forward to, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, he's building a museum in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Yes.
And
heard of that.
We go down to Meridian, which is real close by.
Okay.
Where Jimmy Rogers is from.
Okay.
And we go down there and play some shows with a guy named Britt Gully that he's a historian too, and he actually played Jimmy Rogers in a video for the Jimmy Rogers Foundation.
Oh, cool.
And just a super guy. But anyway, he and Britt grew up around Bob Wooten, who played lead guitar for Johnny Cash after Luther Perkins died.
Oh, sure.
And so Bob was from right around that area too, and Britt worked at PV. And in PV's custom shop, so he's got a plethora of information and knowledge about all the PV stuff from back in the day. And we got lucky enough. I'm sidetracking now from Marty Stewart, but I do want to see that. But we got lucky enough. Britt took us to meet Hartley PV.
Oh wow!
See how the old PV T60s that Jerry Reed used to play, and told us about how all that came about, and him starting to build it, and how he began building amps in high school. And
oh wow, I didn't know Jerry Reed played a PV. I did not know that.
Oh man, yeah.
Wow, that's another layer. I didn't know that.
He played a PV through the late. I think the T60 came out in '78.
No kidding.
But yeah, he started playing a PV and played it, during all that eastbound and down stuff.
Oh yeah, that's some good. That's some good picking right there, man.
Oh man, Jerry Reed.
Yeah, I won't cuss on the air. I'm going to try not to, but there's a great bumper sticker that somebody had. It said Jerry MF Reed, and it was just the whole word. And man almighty, I was like, that's a good bumper sticker.
Yeah,
Right
it's got
there.
a lot of truth to it.
It's got a lot of truth to it. Yeah, it does have a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, man. No, Jerry Reed is a.
Wow.
I can't even say an influence because it really nothing he's done has really influenced me because I couldn't get to that level to learn it. But he sure did bring me a lot of happiness hearing him do it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Amy White, I have to respond to you. She said, "Wonder how Lori thought when Keith received his and she didn't get one." I don't know.
Well, I know how Mike felt knowing that Lori didn't get hers, and he's
Yeah.
pretty happy.
That's I can tell you how I felt. Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Someday she's gonna come calling. She's gonna be like, "I want my damn guitar."
yeah, too late, Lori. You
I'll
missed
say, "Hey,
the bus.
yeah." I'll say, "Hey, you never know how life works out with these crazy things, you know."
Oh, I
That's
just
pretty
thought, you know what, Lori? I guess you had to be there.
Yeah, I guess she had to be there. It's another song. Lori, you had to be there. Man, this has been an amazing treat, dude. You are so cool. I could pick your brain all night, I'm telling you. And I hope people really dig deep into the Cole Brothers music. And is there any, can I ask, is there, this may sound totally naive, but I didn't realize your father was who he is. Does he have recorded music available?
Yeah, actually, there's a bunch of stuff of his on YouTube. If you just type in Jack Reeves, you can
Jack
hear
Reeves?
a bunch of his stuff. And
Really?
and even a guy named Gary Paxton.
Okay.
He was a producer. I think he wrote Alley Oop, if you remember that song.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he was the one who had it out. It was under a thing called the Hollywood Argyles because they lived in Hollywood on Argyle Street, so they had Hollywood Argyles. But anyway, he did that out of his garage, and but later he bought a bank building in Bakersfield, and and his control room was an old tour bus that he pulled into there. But he's the guy who, my dad was on the same label back then with. They were all kind of on a label with Gary Paxton, the Gosden brothers, Vernon Rex Gosden.
Oh, sure.
And all those people and a bunch of little bands, my dad got to be one of those groups that he produced, Gary Paxton did. And that's kind of how all the Clarence White stuff came about. So there is a thing called Not Enough of Me to Go Around is on Spotify. And that has Clarence and Gene Parsons on it and all of them.
Wow, incredible, man. Yeah. I've got a lot of buddies who are just going to geek all over this podcast, and I'm super excited it happened. I'm super excited to get to pick your brain and chat with you, man.
Man,
this is a newfound friendship. So this is cool. Very cool. So, well, hey, buddy, I'm gonna close the book, and we can do this again because I don't want to give away all of our secrets.
All right.
I would have you on again. We could talk for days, man.
For sure.
We barely scratched the surface on your music, but I urge all of you folks out there to really go seek him out, go seek Cole out, go seek the Reeves Brothers out, and come to a town near. They're coming to a town near you, I would expect. So keep an eye out, man. Keep an eye out. So this is cool, and thanks for Mom tuning in, Susan, and
love you, Mom,
and hopefully your dad out there. Much love to the Reeves family, and man, this has been a treat. Thank you so much, dude.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for having me, brother. And like you said, we're definitely got to do this again, whether it's on or off the air. But man, I love that you've got this podcast going, and now that I know about it, I'm going to be tuning in.
Cool, man. Please do. It's good fun for me, and we'll get some other folks on here. We got a great list of people coming up. So,
awesome.
All right, buddy. Well, cheers.
Thanks for having us, Mike. God bless you guys.
All right, y'all. See you, everybody. Have a good night. Take care, y'all. Good night.